Good evening, and welcome to RipShips, the Underworld's best missives system. I am your host, Sky-Sundering Shadow, and with me today is Aura.
I'm dying.
Gavel.
I'm going to kill you later.
And Lythander.
Tweet, 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 tweet.
Today's episode is slightly unusual, primarily because we have our hosts among the living today as part of
Tweet, 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 tweet.
recompense
Tweet, tweet,
for
tweet.
an earlier argument.
Tweet, tweet, tweet.
This is currently being recorded as they are asleep, and I have used necromancy to drag their spirits into my recording studio.
How's everyone's week?
Tweet, 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 tweet. Getting pulled headfirst from a restful slumber into whatever this madness is, so invigorating.
Well, that wouldn't have happened if you had given me all the soul you had promised.
To be fair, it was in the heat of the moment, something I tend to try and not do, but
We're
fair is
working on
fair,
it.
I suppose.
We're gonna get Meon. We're gonna try to get Meon back some other time. He just got kind of pulled under. It was a bit of an involuntary wave flex. But you'll get him.
Yes, we initially had one other guest scheduled with the Milk and Fool and Red, but she's not fucking showing up, and to be honest, I'm kind of glad
That's probably
she
a good
didn't get this
idea.
call at the moment. Yes, we've had quite the history of incidents with co-hosts in the past that we seem to have avoided thus far.
Tweet, tweet.
Attempting to murder our listeners through essence is very much appreciated as not
Tweet,
happening.
tweet, tweet.
Lythander, what the hell are
I think
you
he fell
doing?
asleep in bird form again. Hold
Tweet,
on, let me do the thing I do when I grab his neck in a funny way. Okay.
In the meanwhile, I suppose I could mention how my week was. I am now banned from forums.
Tweet? How did you manage to do that?
Well, I suppose we could start off with the first retelling of this. So, you all know that Thorns is currently under the control of the Mask of Winter.
That was a long time coming, girlfriend.
Well, that did happen some 5 years ago. But, yes, there was recently, a bit of a meet-up in the Underworld at a neutral party through several of us Death Knights. The Mask of Winters was there, alongside Iron Rebuke, Malcolm Fu and Red, and several others, and he was giving this speech, but I noticed something strange about it several minutes in. See, the Mask of Winters is this giant two-faced fellow. He does this thing where he shifts his entire body to represent whether he's happy or sad, kind of like this one tale I remember back from the age of the Shogunate, but that's neither here nor there. The Nightmare Before Calibration. Anyways, I noticed something strange. He wasn't using the teleprompter. And I glance around the room and everyone else seems a bit confused by this too. All of these very serious men, women, and elsewise from all across creation in various stages of decay, all looking quite confused because the man isn't using his teleprompter. And that's when I get an idea. I go to my stencil and I craft several words, and I just write out, "Can you read this in river speak?" And I hold it up as the Mask of Winter is speaking, and he does not seem to react. And then write in a bevy of other languages, "Can you even read?"
No.
And I just wave this in the air as he is speaking, and he shows no reaction. And that's what I start. There's some snickering in the crowd at this point, and I decide to start writing whatever bullshit that comes to mind then. "Lol, the Mask of Winters can't read," and such. The entire crowd is now burst into laughter. And that's when the Mask of Winter starts getting very angry. Not because he can't read, but that may be the case of this God's does, however, old spirit being illiterate, possibly, but also me interrupting his big speech. And he does the face shift and he kicks me out. But I'm pretty sure I derailed that. And to be honest, Final Glimmer of Fallen Stars is never happy about anything, but I do like to think that I've made things interesting between the other Death Lords via interrupting their big conference. So that was my week. I now have a Death Squad sent after me.
I mean, don't we all at one
That's how you
point
know
or
you made
another in our lives? Some more than others.
Speaking of weeks, I suppose I should ask my illustrious guests how theirs were, given that they broke an oath.
Not yet.
I knew. That's
Not
how the
yet.
magic works.
Yes, I realize this. Let's see. Well, I believe we all have relatively the same week. We've been going around trying to find that piece of shit Meon, as well as trying to tie up every other loose end in Shampoo that seems to pop up out of every damn crevice that can be possibly fit into an alleyway. But you know, it's been going quite well. Apparently I have a new, I wouldn't call him a nemesis.
Isn't his
se.
name
I
literally
would say,
Nemesis?
well, no, it's the
Oh,
antagonist,
yes.
but
My bad.
Despite the title, I couldn't quite say it's that far. It's like, how should I phrase this? You know that, when you've been walking for so long and your feet start to get blisters from how long you've been walking?
Yes.
They're kind of like that. And so far, especially since they look like me, this particular blister seems like it needs to be gotten rid of at some point. Not immediately, but hopefully soon. Just hoping they're not causing too much mischief when wearing my face, albeit run through a sort of color blender.
Yes, having someone who looks like you can be quite infuriating. Thankfully, I'm glad no one can...
Turns into Sky-Sundering Shadow. Yes.
You know, it's quite interesting you're able to do that and still talk, given that I'm using necromancy to still do that without a jaw. How are you?
Oh, you think I don't have necromancy as well?
Touché. I'll find some way to kill you for that later.
Oh yes, you will. Not sure if you'll work, but I always come back.
Ah, yes, speaking of death, I remember hearing that somewhat from a ghost on a previous episode. I forget his name before I smelted him live on air, but I remember hearing
I'll
that...
kill you for that.
I remember hearing that someone killed a lunar in a particularly powerful brawl. I've had this question asked in previous other chosen who have reincarnated before in other episodes. Do you have any interesting stories of particularly engaging past deaths in glorious battles?
Sorry for all the coughing. I've been poisoned till now. It's pretty strong poison. Really sorry. I don't want to mess up the audio. But yeah, trying to mute whenever I get the coughs. But I remember something I was gonna tell. I wanted to tell the story a couple of years back, or not years. We haven't really known each other for that long. But I want to tell the story because of the setting, really. Now, you don't expect me to be that much more comfortable riding on a boat. Somebody like me, immediate assumption you get is, there goes a lass who really knows how to ride a horse. And let me tell you a little something about me and horses. I'm terrified of horses. Horses are, by and large, one of the scariest species of animals ever put to life, really. They are almost entirely perceptive. They have vision. Their vision spans the entire length of the entire circumference of their body, except for a tiny little cone-shaped window on the back of their head. So they are practically impossible to, sneak around. They can crush somebody's entire skull in less than a fraction of a second with their kick. And they also bite like hail. They're enormously tall. Just getting stampeded by horses is one of the scariest thoughts in my life. And I got this thought a while back, a long time ago. Allow me to tell you all the story of Loco.
Very well. Tell us about Loco.
So when I was a youngin',
ought to be interesting.
after the reincarnation, but before I really knew myself, I was part of a youth group close to the border of a town bathed by a crimson sea. I remember this. We had a lot of little activities we did, and one of them was helping out some farmers take care of a barn. And one of the things that we used to do was after all was said and done, the people at the farm, the caretakers, would teach everybody some horse riding lessons. It was there that I met Loco. Apparently Loco was obtained by that farm a couple of years back from a group of nomadic resellers. The name Loco wasn't a name they gave him. It was a name the resellers had already given him by the time they bought him. And for those of you who don't know, Loco means crazy. And you're going to know why in a minute. So...
Yes, I believe I remember this in Flame Tongue.
When we were doing the horse riding lessons, all the horses had already taken it to everybody. I remember I was the last one to get picked. And everyone was like, well, how about we set him up with Loco? And they put me on, the horse. The horse was standing perfectly still. Loco was this white horse with how do I say this? Like cookie spots. You know the one? You know the ones like the ice cream? Like that it's vanilla with little cookie bits? That's what Loco looked like. It was a very pretty horse. But they put me on the horse. Horse stood perfectly still. They were giving me some instructions here and there. And then, as if to indicate the end times, a butterfly flew in front of Loco's face. Now, I don't know what the hell this horse saw, but judging by what followed, I think this horse thought it was going to fucking die. Because it suddenly got up on its back legs and rushed into the forest with me in it. with me on it. And I was barreling toward the forest at top speed, hitting every single tree branch along the way, wrapped by my legs to this giant horse that refuses to slow down. That this horse must have ran a mile with me trapped on it. And I'm screaming, I'm running, I'm screaming. And I think they try to yell at, like, I can hear people yelling in the background. I'm yelling at it to stop, and it just won't quit.
Sorry to interrupt. One moment. Are you saying
No,
this
the horse
was
was running
its
on all
hind legs?
It got up on its hind legs to.
I see.
It got up on its hind legs to, do the thing that horses do when they set up to go crazy. The pose, the iconic pose.
Yes, I'm just getting a report from a similar friend of a similar horse who has had history of doing something similar, but does in fact run on their hind legs.
So Loco keeps running, and he keeps running, and I know he doesn't calm down. He's not calming down by any means. This horse is just going to keep running until he just runs out of breath. And that's exactly what it did. The horse could not run anymore. So it starts slowing down. And I remember I tried to touch it to, like, get off it, to, like, stand on it all. But I think when I touched it, it thought that the butterfly got him, so it just accepted its death. It just laid down. It just, like, plopped down on the ground with me still on it, and I fell off it with my legs stuck underneath. Like, it just fell on its side and accepted its fate.
It's shortly after. Did the horse survive that, or did you give it a heart
attack? I don't know. I don't know what happened to it. That horse must have been. That must have been traumatic, because I haven't gone next to a horse in a good couple years since then.
See, I do have a hunch related to that on what may have happened to that beast, because back when I first lit up several years ago, I did some training with some gentlemen under our rival competing Death Lord in the region, the First and Forsaken Lion, a giant armored idiot who was sealed forever into his suit of armor because he wasn't destroying the universe fast enough. Anyways, his knight, she was riding a horse with a very similar disposition. The training session was actually cancelled because even undead, she could not get the horse to stop running, even with its heart exploded all over its chest cavity and its bones clear to see. Training session had to be cancelled entirely because she was having the exact same issue you were. I think this horse had the exact similar markings, now that you mention it. Even in death, it had the exact same fucking issue. So I guess that answers the question of what happened to the logo.
And this is why I always have horses for traveling.
And that was my story. Not much happened with my week. We were in Shampoo recently, so I got a chance to try out some delicacies. I tried out Clav Kalash. I've never had it before. It's a lot more bittersweet than I thought. It's like if you've ever had Clav Kalash, it's like lamb. It's lamb wrapped on a stick, covered in this, like, savory sauce. And it's a little tough to chew through, but it's a very unique taste. I don't know about it too much. But it's very weird to give it a try, because I've always, lived close by, but I never really gave much thought to visit the capital. It was very good food. I can imagine how people would live here for a long time. Yeah, so that's like a 6 out of 10, probably.
Speaking of food, I myself crafted an ancient recipe from bygone days of the first stage. I revived some old flowers, ground them into flour, and I made an ancient recipe that is called I believe it's called a quiche.
Oh, the quiche. The most famous thing ever, the quiche.
Yes, I've heard of such a food before. Not particularly my type of food, but I suppose some people enjoy it.
It turned out alright. Unfortunately, it required a lot of chewing, which means I had to go craft a secondary jaw, again, which is always a pain in the ass. But
I was curious about how you ate such a food with no jaw.
you could thank the old asshole who
You're
killed me
welcome.
for that, but that's a story for... That's a story I've already relitigated on this podcast over and over, and I would rather not go into it.
Fair enough.
As much as our guests, as much as our listeners in the kingdom of the underworld love hearing stories from all across creation, they don't like repeats. Those episodes tend to be fairly low views.
Oh, well, okay. Nothing.
What was that, Lythander?
I just said okay. That's a little awkward that you have even repeat episodes to begin with.
Oh, less repeat episodes, more the repeat stories from different people on horrible events that have killed them. You would not believe how many stories I've heard of people who were killed in such and such battle by the realm, and things tend to go embarrassing ways. Like, I even once had 5 different guests from the Pigsty Coop that killed the Shogunate, all telling horrible versions of that shitstorm. And yes, that is a literal shitstorm that, in fact, killed a regime on the
I
center.
got eaten by a fish once. In a past life.
Oh, well, that's something I definitely haven't heard before.
Oh,
The fish
yes,
hasn't told this
it was
story.
a long time ago. It was even before someone like me would even be able to reincarnate. But that memory still is a core memory. I don't know how. So I was a dashing rogue rapscallion back in the day. I used to fight with some swords. Now I have this shovel, but I used to use swords at one point in time. So me and my compatriots were trying to get information, so we decided to go into a prison in disguise. It didn't work out well because those friends or compatriots were assholes to begin with, and after many a trials of barely surviving giant rolling logs coming at us, being beaten half to death, being starved, we plotted our escape route after getting the information needed. And then this random green fish with buck teeth came out and bit me in half, and kept on biting me, until I was dead, and no one seemed to try to stop it, at all. It even talked to me, saying, "Hello, I'm a dope fish. I'm gonna eat you now." It was terrible.
Well, that sounds like
I don't
a
know, it was
creature
more
wild,
eldritch.
definitely.
More sidereal in nature, I would say. Which is why this is a shout out to all of your sidereal listeners. Don't be like Neon, or I will make you suffer.
Now, I haven't heard of this particular creature before, but I have heard tale of all sorts of wonderful wildlife that the wild sends away. Do you know one of them has a particularly notorious species, same size as what you described, but they have a light on the back of
yes.
their heads?
So the thing is that this thing was unkillable as well. It was like a deity of some sorts.
Ah!
When I find it, I'm going to obliterate it.
No wonder it killed you then. No wonder it killed you if you hadn't lit up by then. If this was a memory from your Hun rather than from the Keter of the
Yes.
Exaltation.
So there's also this funny time where I remember it's not a past life, but I think a premonition of a future life. There was this human regime that wanted to kill everything except other humans, and they had this thing called a god emperor. It was weird. I for some reason recall having the name Golgarth or something like that. I had this giant mechanical beast of a weapon that I could barely wield. It had this roaring sound as teeth bit into flesh. And I had something kind of like...
Oh, Neverborn, here we go again with this. I've heard this story before from souls all over creation, and I'm not a fan of the grim darkness of the future.
Oh, don't worry. If I remember correctly, we all lived, apparently, me and my compatriots that time. I was apparently the talking head. Oh god, Oh god, is Golgarth just future Lythander? Oh no. I shudder to think such a thing would ever happen. But it was a fun time, I would say. We ended up in a volcano, I believe. And that was actually very fun. I had this piece of equipment that shot fire, almost like Aura's fire starter. Except it was more of a instead of a bang. But yes, no, that's really about all I can remember. Except that one time where I was a very small person in a penguin suit who particularly took up a knife, which apparently held a great deal of evil in it that required blood sacrifices to it. And then a random person coming in and killing me once I released the evil that was within it without knowing it was evil. And, my compatriots at the time just let it happen and brought them into the fold. That was, very nice.
That is quite a lot to digest.
It is! Sorry, I'm going to, just, be quiet now and recount thoughts of who I have to murder.
Yes, that brings us to our segment of the traditional hit list. Does anyone have anyone that they would like to describe threats of death towards? Any enemy chosen, or horrible warlords, or evil gods or spirits that they would like to send a shout-out to on their hit list?
If I were to do that, we would be here forever.
Well, give us the greatest hits, then.
But, the greatest hits? Well, funny enough, this one is a bit of a fresher wound. 100 Venom Stinger.
Don't listen to this!
If you're listening to this, I'm coming after you. I will find you, and I will show you what happens when you decide to be an absolute coward and not fight me. When you say you're going to fight me.
Wait a minute, didn't he have an entire jellyfish army coming for you? With him at the front?
Oh, yes. Well, yes, see, that's the funny thing. It wasn't actually him. It was an illusion, you see.
Oh, yes, no, that was the soul that we stole from you.
No, that was still Meon.
Yes, no, that's the soul that we stole from him. That's the only soul we stole.
Wait a minute, isn't he a shapeshifter, though?
Yes, we banished him to the deepest, darkest pits of... Where was it again that you sent them, Gavel?
Oh, I sent them to my boss, Ligier.
Yes, I'm sorry. He deserves worse than being turned into a piece of metal screaming for all eternity.
Oh yes, and more accurate to, our whole business and in Shampoo, although it is quite unlikely that they are listening to this. The economy. If you're listening...
We'll take action against you.
We are going to find you. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. And I will be searching every rock, every crevice, every single atom inside of every living organism inside of Shampoo, even all of creation if I have to. But I will find your root and I will rip it out, screaming or not.
I'm not sure how much of the living are listening to this. Let me check the metrics. Oh, damn, more than I thought. But, we can we'll consider that death threat sent. Speaking of which, you've been particularly quiet. What happened in your week?
So, actually, to go back to your previous question about recanting tales of deaths from previous lives, there's a particular one that is quite embarrassing, but I feel it has been long enough that I shall share it. I forget what kind of exalt I was at the time. it's hard to say for sure, but I was newly awakened at the time, and had decided to cross through the burning sands into into more of this side of creation. It was on my travels with a well, actually no, I think I was alone actually, but it was in my travels through the various hills and mountains that I came across an oddity. It was a man playing chess by himself, no less. No other challenger with him, just a gentleman playing chess by himself. I found it quite strange, and being newly awakened and sort of reckless, I decided to, foolishly I might add, test my mettle against this particular gentleman, and challenged him. And much to my own surprise at the time, he refused my duel. My offer of combat, he just straight up refused it. So, being the little idiot that I was at the time, I decided to try and fight him anyways. Well, you see, I don't know what kind of exalt this older gentleman was. I don't know if he was Luna, if he was Sidereal, if he was Solar, or even Infernal, but turns out that chess pieces are quite deadlier than one might expect.
Oh, I found out that shogi pieces are the exact
Similar with
same way.
mahjong.
Yes, but see, it wasn't the first chess piece.
Oh yes, mahjong, not shogi.
It wasn't the first chess piece that this person threw that had killed me. No, it was about the 5th or 6th one.
Oh, so you were pretty durable.
It wasn't quite that. More of how do I say this? It seems that in between one of the other tosses and me yelling in pain from getting hit directly in the forehead, but I believe it was the queen piece that he had threw at that time. It seemed that one of either the rook or the pawn had managed to lodge its way directly into my throat. I had choked to death on the piece.
Wait a minute, you were killed by Passant Swifthands, weren't you?
I don't know the name of this Exalt, but that is quite the possibility.
Pieces.
Well, that was an Exigent, the chosen of games, and I suppose it would make sense that they would be able to kill people with playing cards or what have you, given the focus of their patron being able to weaponize anything. Last I heard, their current incarnation also died recently. I believe they were on not on my show, perhaps in an earlier competitor before I had them killed and smelted as well. I don't think that Passant's ghost was in that collection, though. Perhaps you'll meet them again someday.
I don't doubt it at all, but aren't those sort of exogens more in the northern eastern part of creation?
Well, I believe there was a tournament some centuries back, like at the waning end of the First Age, when all of these gaming types came together. You wouldn't have happened to have been in any of these tournaments previously, were you?
I don't think I was.
Not even like a jousting or a gladiatorial match. This is completely standard board games that even a few mortals and sorcerers and what have you came to. Lythander, Aura, were you at any of these card game or board game tournaments?
Oh, as in my past life, I have been to a bunch of them, where we summoned these creatures from the cardboard to do battle for us, and we used our own life force as betting chips, essentially. Needless to say, one loss means you died, or as some random person put it, if you lose, you lose.
I remember I've always wanted to go to a regional or an event or something like that, but I've never really gathered up the place to go. That's because product distributions was always really annoyingly bad over where I live. So we never really had managed to get any of the product over here. It was always stuff from 5 years ago. 3 if we're lucky. But I have been playing a lot more now than I did when I was a kid. I've been playing with programs and all that, trying to get some simulations going. And it's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it. I've been learning. I've been getting help from people. It was good. I really enjoy the game. But no, I have not been in any of these. Sounds good, though. It sounds fun. I definitely want to go.
Yes, my understanding is the magical engine they were using in order to cause those kinds of stakes with the decadence of the first age was shattered during the usurpation. To think of it, I may have done a little bit of tweaking myself on back way back at that first age as a bit of a hobby. The designs for some of the legendary rarity cards, come to think of it. I believe I designed something called the Forbidden One that people got very mad about because of the alternate win condition, and also because I bound a behemoth from the wild into the cards itself, and it seemed like a great idea at the time.
But
even splitting it up into 5 separate cards.
Oh, everybody likes that one. Everybody likes that one.
Oh, you were the maker of that
I believe
one.
so, yes.
I believe I've even heard of this, although I don't particularly partake in these sorts of activities myself. For no other reason other than I don't have the time to. But I've heard of such a thing before. I've even heard of a lot of different spin-offs and variants of it as well. So I guess you made quite a name for yourself in that degree.
People took what I made and put their own spin on it without crediting me.
Indeed.
So speaking of
Damn shame.
Stories from your end, you are an accomplished general of some kind, and I don't think you've mentioned any kinds of campaigns.
Oh boy. I mean, even outside of this lifetime, yes, I've been through quite a few campaigns as well. Is there any particular? Well, actually, let me say this first. I've through my lifetimes, I've campaigned in all sorts of areas of creation. In fact, I think with this most recent campaign, I've hit at least one sort of campaign in each corner of creation. So I suppose, indeed, surprising to even myself. But let me ask: is there a particular area you would like to hear about? Because I'm sure I've done some sort of campaign there in some fashion or another.
Well, my show is called RipShips. May as well hear about some stuff in the West, over in the water section of creation.
The water
Come to think of it, you purchased a ship recently.
Let's see.
I believe you were on one when I contacted you last.
Yes? You are correct, yes. It was from a, sort of a somewhat new ally of ours who had made it for us as a bit of a deal that we had made earlier on. But in the waterfront, so let's see. I can tell you about sort of the short-lived campaign in on the Imperial City.
Right in the center then. That's a bit locked inland, but I suppose if you have a flying vessel, you could be able to get there. Did you?
Yes, actually, it was more when flying vessels were sort of not necessarily new, but more for a custom-made sort of thing. But yes, I did have a flying vessel at the time that I was only, much like the ship that we have now actually, was only able to carry just a few of my elite squadrons. Well, it turns out that despite how fairly recent flying crafts were, apparently there's a law about airspace as well.
Yes, these air aspects have this thing where they can fly.
And much to my own dismay and surprise, not only did the Imperial City have air aspects on hand, they also had armaments to knock things out of the sky, much like either a catapult or a trebuchet. they had these sort of armaments that could actually hit moving targets in the sky. And needless to say, well, we had crashed almost right on the city gates, and we had to make a swift and bloody retreat. But we did leave a little bit of a mark on the Imperial City. Not a fantastic one, but a little footnote on the city's history. That's one I'm a little proud of.
Well, it will hopefully smelled a lot better than the pigsty coup. That's our pigsty coup segment for the week, by the way. Next week, I believe we should be able to secure one of the aides of the Shogun herself. Although, speaking of campaigns and such, do you have any recent stories? Any particularly interesting things from this lifetime?
Let's see. I mean, I suppose the one that comes to mind is, well, the one in Yadana when I first awakened in this lifetime. Is that something you would be interested in?
I suppose so. I also took down some other notes from something about a ring that I was able to peer into via some secret tricks, and I have a few live comments from there.
Well, to sort of go into that, as I had said, I was newly awakened as the great infernal champion that I am now. And, you see, since everyone starts off somewhere when it comes to growing an army, and with myself, that is of no difference. So when you're one of the few people only walking, or rather running, out of a church that had recently caught on fire, couldn't say what caused it, you tend to grow a bit of attention to yourself. And, well, at first, it seems that I had gotten the attention of more roguish types. Your thieves, your tricksters, stuff like that. Not even awakened ones, but just standard mortals who seen a newly awakened infernal coming out of a church. That tends to attract more of the rogue types. And, well, that was my merry band of I guess, well, rogues, for lack of a better term. See, we had gone over Yadana, more the northern part of it, sort of trying to gather what support we could. But see, my fellow rogues, their sort of attraction was more in the monetary gain rather than what I had in mind, which was obviously more of a pursuit for a new... more a change of order, I guess, would be the right way to say it. But, see, after a while, and after I had figured out that they weren't following me due to my ideals, but more for the gains that they thought that they would be getting, we had a bit of a falling out. And by falling out, I mean... it seemed that everyone had gotten to an all-out brawl with each other, and I was left to pick up the pieces. But, to my own surprise, a couple of them that had survived the brawl actually did stay, and seemed to have aligned thinking with myself as well. And that's how sort of my army sort of started in Yadana.
Well, that's surprisingly as a happier story, unlike a lot of other past grand origin tales I often hear. Like, I had this one zombie fellow who recounted the story of how he woke up. This is off content, I believe. How he woke up and he was being assembled by some cult or such as an avatar to usher in the end of the world. But he did not want to do that, being 5 minutes old, give or take, and he informed them politely of how stupid their plan was, and the cult did not take well to their new messiah being largely interested in their plans of world domination, and instead wanting to be a playwright, I think he mentioned. Anyway, he ended up beating the crap out of them and is now wandering the way. So he mentioned him being took the title of a hand of some sort, selection hand. Or?
Oh, Shakespeare?
No, I don't
Because
remember.
he
It was more of a
shakes a
cube, from what I remember.
No.
Wrong shape. But speaking of which, we actually have someone's coming out of your ring right now.
I think they.
Lythander, what the fuck are you doing?
Oob, right?
It's that magistrate. Hello. You are Nellens Liza, yes. I have some questions about what the hell this all is.
Oh, no.
How the did you
I came
get
out of
here?
the ring.
Ladies and gentlemen, we present you infinite guests.
Wait, why are you in my ring?
This is a nice...
Oh, yes. Yes, hello. Welcome to my ability, Infinite Guest Works.
Welcome to Gavel's own personal hell, it seems.
Hey, now you know you love me, Gavel.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking
yes,
about
this
them.
is a new segment we might be able to have.
okay.
Live calling guests. I might have to call in Lythander for future episodes now.
No!
Anyway, this is RipShips, a legitimate Underworld program of... Yes, I've heard of such anachronistic works previously, of where you send in signals directly to the poor brains of people who can't help but listen and have them as captive audiences. We killed all those for a reason. Podcasts such as these are banned on the center, or works such as these are banned on the Blessed Isle.
No.
Anyways...
I mean, it's at least not going and giving propaganda to join her.
Well, thankfully, though, those missives and plays and such have ceased since the Emperor's up and vanished.
See, so it's not all bad, it's just like, what is it, your parents having on Vulpine News all the time, I think? It's not that bad.
So, I believe that truce field is purposely in effect, so I can't just snap going back. Anyways, this is a story segment you mentioned? Yes, if you haven't... Well, I do have an interesting story about the demon chicken. Different kind of demon chicken. A literal, animal bred in Malpheus. So, when I first started as a magistrate, one of the very first cases I took up was investigating a series of murders on the Blessed Isle, inside one of the provinces near the ruins, inside one of the less well-to-do segments of town. And the evidence gathered was a shattered eggshell near every single body. I decided to start tracking some of the water essence from within the very segments of the shell, but I realized it wasn't water. It was vitriol. From the Underworld. Or rather, Malpheus. I keep getting them mixed up, even though I know I shouldn't. Honestly, that's a very poor mistake to make. They have separate places, and anyone who mixes them up should be swiftly disciplined. Oh yes,
no.
But eventually I tracked this entity down, and laying it was a chicken the size of a house. I do mean these eggs were the size of a person, by the way, and it was a particularly fearsome breed of being called a hell chicken. I forget the exact name. It's some old realm or such that I don't speak, but I managed to slay it, and through some investigation with a sorcerer acquaintance, I was able to determine that it was in fact a hell chicken assassin that laid its eggs, and they just exploded and killed people.
So they were like bombs,
some such,
then.
yeah. And the unfortunate thing about it is, when I did hit the chicken enough, it let out this horrible scream, and then more chickens emerged out of nowhere.
Oh, you mean...
Yes. Some manner of cuckoo, I believe it's called. That was part of the name in Old Realm. I forget the exact one, but it took a lot of effort to bring it down. I had to call in... I didn't have a hearth at the time, but I did... The sorcerer was able to come in and help start throwing more fire birds to kill the normal birds, and we had a nice hell chicken souffle. Anyway, is that what you wanted from this? Can I go back in now? Yeah, sure, fine.
Maybe I should shut the... I did not know that this ring would actually work in my dreams.
Artifacts have a funny way of
Yes,
figuring
there's also
that sort of
something
thing
about the
out.
border between sleep or death. Anyone have any fun dreams? Speaking of which, we've talked about some on previous episodes with other guests.
Well, I told you about my dream.
Bit of a signal error. Could you say that again?
Oh, I told you
yes,
about my
yes.
dream
The
already.
dream that's not happening.
No, it's a dream of things that are
Yes, but
to
I'm
come.
going to change the future. But that's neither here nor there. Everyone else. Oh!
Actual plug, Bandit Plays Games has that entire campaign that
idea
I'm
what you're
talking
talking
about
about,
already there.
But regardless, now seems like a good a time as any before we go into our Q&A segment to... I feel like we've gone on a lot of tangents, which is not unfamiliar for these episodes, but does anyone else have any stories before I get the Ghost Roundup for the week?
Nah.
Ghost Roundup News. There's only one time you can do this, and that is
Yeah, live
now.
from the anvil beforehand. Speak now or forever hold your peace if there's any other funny tales you have.
Yeah.
I will hold my peace. I feel like I've expressed a lot of my both victories and
unfortunate,
failures.
you know, as contrary to popular belief, Merc life is not as exciting as it may seem. It's just a lot of the same stuff a lot of the time.
Mostly paperwork.
Eh.
Oh, hold on a second. Ah!
Hold on.
This is quite entertaining. We have a first ghost story for the week coming in from a Manosk of some variety. One of the great houses at the center that isn't around anymore. About how they died by falling into the sky.
What?
Yes. So it turns out that there's a ceiling. It's incredibly high up there and borders the very bottom of Yushan, but if you go high enough up, you will hit a solid surface. The Sky Dome, I believe it's called.
Fascinating.
So what happens if you were to teleport above the surface? Is it just a wall that you will die from?
Well,
just
if you
being
skip the...
inside
If you
a
no-clip
wall?
past the wall, my
Or is
understanding
it-
is you end up in Yushan itself.
You don't go into this weird room where you just walk in.
That sounds like a corner of Malpheus, although you can no-clip to there as in other places of creation, is my understanding. You're describing Kath, the Infinite Mountain. It's a very silly place. Don't go there. The enlightenment there, it offers crap. But back to Manosk and the falling into the sky. So, the individual here actually stirs something of a memory from a prior lifetime I recall hearing of the closest anyone ever got to conquering the center. So, Aura, this might interest you. Or, not Aura. It's a bit hard to remember your current name. I apologize.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. You got it right in one.
No,
Okay,
that's
okay.
Their name's
Gavel,
Aura.
I meant. The closest anyone ever got
Yes.
to conquering the Blessed Isle.
Oh boy,
The
this
main
ought to be
artifact
interesting.
of their choice was a little something called the Eye of a Toxon.
I've heard of
Widely
such
regarded to be
thing.
one of the strongest weapons ever discovered. No one knows its origin, but what it does do, it grants wishes. Straight up.
Which is usually why most people try to find it in the first place, or
Yes,
at least
and
try to get it.
This is one of the more well-known stories involving that fucking thing. Manosk found it and decided, fuck it, I'm gonna sit on the big chair. I wish I could be king. I wish I could be the emperor of the whole world. And that's how he got the closest. He had mass duplicating soldiers, essentially, is what that thing did for him. And empowering them to the level of essentially making them, giving all his mortal soldiers enlightenment and making them martial arts masters. So he had his army of martial arts soldiers march on the center, and he was about 3 days from the city before it happened, because unfortunately the Eye has a nasty habit of turning on or souring wishes, like a curl of the proverbial cursed monkey's paw. as some previous guest has described it.
Yes.
This is actually the second time the eye has shown up on this show, come to think of it. But regardless, all of a sudden, all of him and his army fell into the sky. And they all went splat and died. It was very anticlimactic end to his conquering.
That's terrifying.
Do you have any... So, since it's early, do you have any breakfast
I'll
for
have some
us?
cooking as I start to filter in
We're in
some
the dream.
audience questions. Come to think of it.
We're also in the dream world. Nutrients shouldn't be
I
too
have
much of an
some
issue,
fake arts
Lythander.
if you'd like.
I'll take a couple.
They're hard. They're tiny little monsters, so they're like popcorn.
I see.
I was wondering, do you have
one
any...
second. I have some spices for that. There you go.
Do you have any... Oh, wait a second.
Stop playing
Oh
with the
my
fabric of the dream like that. That's quite disconcerting.
Oh, what do you mean? Do you have any croissants?
Oh, those are incredibly difficult to make. Those take like
Croissants?
72 hours or some such.
No. They only take 3 hours in my ring.
Plus those.
I pop out a croissant.
Plus, apparently, those are considered a delicacy in some parts of creation.
Would you like a croissant?
No, I
It's
do
like
not want a
peafowl
croissant.
up in Prasad.
Croissant!
Indeed.
Oh, wait. You mean they pee in the fowl up there? I better make sure Pedro doesn't go there. Bad
Quite the
joke.
bad joke.
But you were talking about what's it? But yes, that story does seem quite terrifying. Can't say that is any sort of
Someone
way
also
I would
mentioned
like to
being
go.
squished by a giant scorpion the size of the continent.
You know what? I think I revoke my previous comment. That is not the way I
A
want to go
grasshopper,
either.
I believe it was called.
I think the...
A giant wild monster. Oh, grass cutter! I know about that one. Ah, who are you? Hi, I'm Nue. Nice to meet you.
There you are.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
I mean, I
Wait,
put,
Nue's here?
I put Nue in my
Take it
ear as
here.
a... yeah, I
a
turned.
fly,
I
yeah.
asked her to turn into a fly in case anything bad happened, so she could be in my ear.
Good call on that. Who the hell are you?
Oh,
This is the abyssal you
Yeah.
mentioned.
no.
Well, they
this
used
is
to
a
be
sword,
one.
Something
Apparently.
like that.
Yes, that is how it works. I believe. Or Gavel, do you have those monstrances that they use for us?
I don't
It's a little
think I
jar
do.
that the
At least
Death Lords made in order to convert the old solar essences into the death essences that we use as our power source.
Oh yes. See, my boss had offered me one at some point in time, but I quite politely refused. I would prefer something like that not to shatter.
Speaking of
under
which,
my
I
watch.
do remember there was a story, speaking back with the first of Forsaken Lion, about him dropping a monstrance on the ground and the shard dramatically flying away. He posted a notice and such in town, and back when speaking with Red Iron Rebuke, he recounted the story of him dropping his monstrance on the ground, and he was so fucking mad.
Isn't that just an energy drink?
No, like the cocoa beans, or no, coffee is what it's called.
Yes, like cocaine. No, I'm talking about cocaine. You know, it's when you use the cocoa.
Now, do you
bean
mean
with
normal
the cane
cocaine or
sugar.
celestial cocaine? That's
The
a very
substance.
different thing.
There's a huge difference.
You know, those they come from those beans.
Ah, yes, like the beasts of
from that
resplendent
plant.
liquids. Oh, yeah, okay, sorry, Nue here again. Yeah, there are
Yes.
dinosaurs that eat poppy and piss heroin? Is that what you mean?
What?
Yo.
Okay, I'm the
Where
local
at?
animal
I
master,
pull
so
out
I'm
my,
actually predisposed to speak about this. So, One time I had a heist with one of these things, stealing one back from the guild and giving it to the people. Aura, this is shortly before we met in this life.
So you went and gave So you found and gave people...
Oh, no, we got it back in order to have it refine medical herbs into medicine.
So...
No, this was piss morphine.
Heroin. Got it.
Yes, and I think it was called penicillin or some such, but...
I'm
penicillin.
going
something
to
like
hurt
that. Yeah,
you
but the
after
point
this.
is that there was a big, exciting heist where we stole this beast of resplendent liquids, I think it's referred to as, from the guild. He sent this very angry exigent out after us, and I chopped off his head with my spear. It was very difficult to do because he was immune to being stabbed, but not immune to being sliced. Some kind of exigent of swords, of sold swords. It was one of those very few exigents that they actually have more than one of. My understanding is they actually did divide them into castes, and this was a exigent of stabbing, hence being immune to being stabbed. But the slicing proved well enough good, and I was able to, after many cuts, when he was on horseback, but I turned into a giant scythe-bladed thing that, unfortunately, I'm not able to do that anymore. I needed to sacrifice that shape to avoid being murdered by the person who took my arms. If you can see now, they're almost done regrowing. Almost. Should be fine in a few more nights. But the point is that I made off with the beast. Unfortunately, I'm not able to take that thing's shape because it's magical in nature, and that's not something Luna lets us do, sadly. But the point is now that we've given the piss dinosaur heroine creature back to the people.
Fascinating. But I suppose you did do some good in the world, so good on you,
I actually have some of the
Nue.
penicillin here as a sample if you are still injured. Oh, Lythander, you appear to... Oh, yes, I was going to mention, those wounds seem pretty nasty. Is that... Oh my
What
god,
wounds?
that's the silent wind scars. Those are not going to heal on their own. Yes, between...
Oh, yes.
Yes,
What?
according to medical records I recall back from my first aid lifetime, magically aggravated injuries do not heal on their own. You are going to need some kind of divine medicine treatment.
Oh,
Oh,
you
I
mean
mean
like
you're going to
revenge.
need medical essence shoved into those wounds.
You mean like revenge? I would like to make a suggestion roll.
Voice. We're not using dice in this session. That'll work for next time.
Oh no!
I don't know. That was an odd voice from the wild. Anyways, now seems about as good a time as any to go into our question segments. After a quick word from our sponsor.
We have you
Do.
have
Those
sponsors.
would be the sponsors inside
Do.
of the Soul Steel I'm smelting as this episode's going on.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
That's
sponsors,
how.
and they're literally distributing this episode.
Come on down to Soul. Oh, question. When will you get rid of those Soul Steel? When will you stop doing Soul Steel?
Oh, you don't need to worry about it. These are some more slavers I found and are punishing them for their sins.
No. Yes, but what about those that weren't?
Oh, I
You
make
put
sure
in
that all
there.
my soul steel is ethically sourced from only the worst people.
Okay, I'm now liking you a little bit more.
I wish I could say the same.
Yes, I have all... I think I believe that this amulet I use to call the Hell Rain is the Reign of Doom, I believe the official name is sourced from all sorts of imperialists. About a previous lifetime bound some souls in from what would now become Prasan, I believe. Anyone have any interesting stories from the Prasadi
I
before
see.
as I queue up these questions and open my tablet with the information on it?
Ask me again in a few months, and I may have something for you.
Oh no, don't tell me this is going to become a
Perhaps
monthly
it will.
thing.
I certainly hope not.
Yes, we have. So, as a quick explanation from all of the people in, Nue has gone back inside your ear again. Perhaps she's just gotten bored. Does she have an attention span like that always? Nue just seems to have gone back inside your ear again.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. She's not good in these situations. She's a recluse after all. So it's typically...
Yeah, some people can only be in social situations for so long.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it was a good idea. It's better to just leave her be.
Yeah, I think perhaps I may have activated her special interest earlier with mentioning the piss.
Should we get to the questions?
I believe so, yes. Wait, what the fuck? The first question is from the Mask of Winters?
Okay.
Didn't you say you
Oh,
destroyed them?
No, that's one of the Death Lords. That's our patrons in the Underworld.
Oh.
They're insanely powerful ghosts, and when I say insanely powerful, they're perhaps as mighty as some of the mightiest demons in all
the
of
Death
hell.
Lords.
Oh,
As in...
okay. I always find that funny how mortal souls can easily overpower and outshine those that were born there. It's very messed up if you think about it, that those who are born there are less evil than those who
I'm going to
weren't.
spill a bit of a
And yet we say that...
I'm going to spill a bit of a trade secret,
Yes.
is that the Death Lords, to my understanding, are ghosts of Exalts from the first age. I'm sure that's something
Indeed.
that's crossed the mind already. I believe Fallen Star was some form of sidereal in life, but I'm not sure what Mask of Winter's deal was. But the point is that he has apparently written a question. He even remembers the incident that led to me getting banned from Thorns. Perhaps he's in one of his mood swings again. That occasionally happens.
Well, perhaps you've just
Let me
reminded
read what he
him.
wrote. I have misplaced my cat. Please help me find it. Enclosed with this sorcerer's message, spectral image of my cat. Please let me know if you have seen him. I miss him very much. And if you will check, this is an image of his cat.
That's a cat, clearly.
What the fuck is that?
No, it says right there. No, it
That
says
is
right there.
not a
It's
cat.
Well, look,
That's a skeleton!
Well, look, listen. If we ever
That's
find,
not
we'll
a
keep an eye
fucking
out. If we ever
cat.
find a cat with that looks like that, it's a cute cat, by the way. If we ever find a cat that looks like that,
What do you
It
mean?
is.
That's a cute
Look
cat.
at him. Can't you tell?
Oh, that's Juggernaut! I recognize that now. That's the behemoth he used to sack Thorns.
Ah.
Oh, fuck me.
How do you misplace... Wait a second. Question. Out of character here. Is that the thing that I put in my ring?
No.
Okay,
No.
my God.
Yeah, back
That's
into
nice
character.
and worse
Back into
later.
character
Is it
now.
a-
Let's try not to break that.
No, that was my only that was a real question because I didn't know if he was calling a War Strider a Juggernaut class
How
thing.
do
No.
you
Or not.
misplace something like that? Anyway,
I mean, there's an entire ocean.
That is quite curious.
If I were him,
Yeah, that
I
was
would
that would
definitely
definitely-
ask 100
that
Venom
would definitely
Stinger
be-
where it's at.
I would not ask 100 Venom
Yeah, no, I
Stinger
would
where
definitely ask him that, and if he doesn't know,
yeah,
Cross
but I
with
definitely
that.
look in the ocean. The ocean is definitely a place that would be cool to look at.
Or maybe the desert. Maybe it got a little too wet.
Also,
I
sorcerers
wanted to
are really if a sorcerer stole it, you might want to look into impossibly small spaces, because sorcerers are little assholes and they love making weird, ironic hiding spots for things. So, if you think, where did my giant thing go? Probably look somewhere small. Look somewhere small. A sorcerer probably shrunk it down and put it there as a joke.
You know, like a funny tee-hee.
Not the mess?
Much to your name, Mask of Winters. I would try Ascension up in the north
No,
and then
the
go
Mask
from
of
there.
Winters has this reputation for being a master manipulator, and I don't know how much of this is true. This could be he still has it and is threatening us.
That doesn't make...
That would not
Perhaps he just wanted
surprise
this
me.
image as an excuse to send us his horrifying monster.
Maybe.
Oh.
Imagine being a
Nonetheless,
monster.
though.
I hope you
Wouldn't
find
imagine.
it. Anyways, next question comes to us from a concerned Iskome citizen. Hello, wandering heroes. You may have described us to the wrong missive system. We are not heroes here, or at least I'm not.
Well, you see, we're vagabonds. There's a difference, but very, very slim.
Perhaps, yeah. I pray that
What do
this
you mean?
message...
You
yourself.
want to destroy the establishment, thus making you a vagabond in the eyes of the establishment.
I pray that this message reaches you safely. We are experiencing great hardship due to how out of control our leadership is. Over the past few generations, it has been getting much warmer up north due to geomancy projects, solely to produce this hell product called corn. The sorcerers insist that it is a superfood that can be used for basically anything, but it has been spreading wildly. You could visibly watch the corn grow. Worse still, I am convinced it is doing something bad to the soil. Other crops are not growing. In their attempts to make the corn grow, I fear that they are also depleting the geomantic workings that protects us from colder winters this far north. What can we do to stop the corn before it kills us all?
Eat it. Actually,
it.
no. From what
Easy.
I've understood, that
Burn
when you
it.
burn the corn, they pop, and then you get flooded with little weird, like, bursts of weird... I don't even
No,
know
that-
what it is. Like, the
they
insides
don't-
implode. Have you
But
ever
here's-
seen a sea slug blow
But
up
it-
and still exist?
Yes.
Yes, no, it still exists.
Yes.
No, I was just trying to say that
But
I
Ori,
think
you
that
were saying?
when they say that how they stop the corn, I think they're talking in a figurative sort of sense, in which they are being flooded. Their agriculture is being flooded by easy to grow crops by people who are by the greedy few who want to exploit their land for money. This sounds like a time for a good old violent revolution to me. At least that's what I would do. But sorry, what was
And
that?
that's why... Oh, I was
What
just going to
about
say,
the-
and that's why you
Oh,
should
it's
burn
corn.
it.
The corn's not evil. It's just that the people. It's
If it's far up north, the cold essence there might make fire.
yeah. And I was just thinking.
It's corn.
I was just thinking.
It's big.
I was just thinking the
shit.
corn's
It's
not.
got the
The
knives.
corn's probably not the problem. It's probably just dealing with the people planting too much corn, and then separate the corn. Don't plant as much corn. Get some difficult in there. But at first, you gotta deal with whoever is exploiting the land first, and then deal with it.
Well, you
separately.
also have to remove almost all... You have to pick the corn fast. You need to tear it by the root.
But can they pick it faster than it grows? Because it sounds like this is supernatural corn, even worse than normal corn.
Well, even if you can't...
Well, that depends on a lot of
That
factors.
is true. It depends on a lot of factors.
Mm.
So burn the corn is what you're going with then, not any kind of pesticide.
I'm going with either burn the corn or alternatively find where the source of the corn is coming from,
Or
who's
find
planting the
beings
corn
that
and
love
burn
corn
them.
and stick them there so that they eat the corn and at the same pace as the
Lythander.
corn grows, leaving you with a decent amount of corn left for you to pick and
That
use,
doesn't.
if that is what you desire.
That's
While
wildly.
also introducing a new species to which then you can have as a meat substance as well.
That's a wildly irresponsible idea. That doesn't work. It's never worked. All that does is introduce a new species and destabilize an ecosystem. That's happened
But you see,
millions of times.
but here's the thing though. You're that other creature's predator as well.
No, but you don't understand.
Meaning that you are controlling the population.
No, you don't
both
understand.
at
We are not.
once.
You can't control the population. That's the problem. You've introduced a new species that wasn't there before, an invasive species, if you will. You've given them You've given them an ecosystem where they are largely unchallenged. You've given them food and enough space to reproduce indefinitely. And now you have more problem than what you started with. This is what happens every time. This is what happens every time someone tries to do one of these things. They have a problem with rats, so they introduce the cats, and then the cats become a bigger problem than the rats ever were. So now you have to figure out a way to deal with it.
That's because cats don't actually eat rats; they play with them.
Yeah, no,
that's the misunderstanding there.
Well, exactly.
It only doesn't work because the corn is a vegetable.
Well, yeah, but that's the problem. How can you guarantee that
Wait, is corn a vegetable? I thought it was a fruit.
Regardless.
It might be, I don't know.
Regardless, if you introduce a new species into the environment, all you're going to do is destabilize it and ruin whatever harmony was still there. Main thing that I recommend is to try to find a more is to use a scalpel instead of a hammer in this situation. You gotta find out what's making the crop overgrow. Take it out, possibly inside the earth, somewhere where might be some kind of hex sealed core inside the earth. That's typically where they grab all the nutrients. So try digging, try finding something. And then, hey, who knows? By the end, you might still have a couple corn left over, and that'll be good.
The next question comes to us from the Bull of the North. Wait, that famous solar warlord up north? That Bull of the North?
Yeah, I know that guy.
I believe it's the same,
Greetings.
yes. I've heard of them
Recently,
before.
I have secured numerous key military victories, and have routed the realm's attempts to subjugate my people to keep our independence. However, my growing new empire has a lot of mouths to feed, and not everyone has mastered the Ice Walker intensive diet. We are not short on space for farmland or fishing, but little food grows this far up north, and I fear that people
So
might
go to the place that has the corn.
As fellow chosen, do you have any advice on improving crop yields, or attaining alternate food sources? Preferably those that won't involve turning our lands into corn hell like those jackasses.
Go to East Comet and eat that corn. There's your solution.
Okay, alternative. As a fellow general,
or you said what I said wouldn't work, but here we go. I just made it work.
What I would do, at least in my own situation, is well, you know the term merchants like to use. You spend money to make money.
Are you speaking cannibalism?
Well, no, not quite. No. As ironic as this is coming from me, why not partition a deity of some kind to help yield crops? Give them some food in return for more food to grow. Supply and demand, as it were.
My understanding is that the Bull of the North is a solo of some variety, and they are rather infamous among deities for being able to slap the shit out of them. I believe that... Oh, yeah, we actually have a portrait of the Bull of the North someone commissioned some time ago. Here he is.
Oh, I see. Yes, okay. That is a much clearer picture. Well, in that case, well, if the gods aren't working for you, there are other things down below that might be able to help you just as well. Although, considering you are a solar...
Speaking as the Underworld representative, not much of the food here is particularly suited for those of the living.
Damn.
I thought you were the ones who produced this corn.
No, that's maize. That's different.
Not...
I mean, is it?
Not quite.
Maize, corn, they're both amazing.
Let's not relitigate the is corn grass argument. You were not here that, but it lasted for about 6 hours. I'd rather not go there again.
That is rather impressive, but nonetheless. No, in that case, I would say, Well, see, this is a tricky one, then. Well, Have you ever thought of making a trade route to any of the, to any sort of nearby villages or towns? Who knows, maybe you could get some, agricultural tips. I studied a bit of agriculture during my time in the, Before Awakening, so I know at least a thing or two about crop yielding and the sort.
Wait a minute. Speaking of which, Aura, don't you have any kind of, perhaps you could set up some kind of trade route with this man. Although he is basically a whole world away, so good luck.
Alright, let me see. So where did you say where did you say this guy was living?
Far up
Alright,
north,
I think...
which would be about a year's travel away. Okay, that might be...
don't worry, I have something. I think I might have something. For up to the north, it's really important to get these trade routes set up, because the people there live largely isolated. They're very cold places. So typically what you want to do is get somewhere set up underground where the snow can't reach. I was working a couple of years. This was back when I started on the merch trade. We were building something under the... Excuse me. Still sick. But we were building something under the roots, underneath the snow and all that. Found some nice little rock caverns. We decided to dig up these little tunnels, and I was trying to pay for it for a little bit. Construction, I don't know if it's finished yet. Probably not, but those are some trade routes getting set up that should be big enough right now for, merchants to travel through. Between, I believe that and... I had to sneeze, excuse me. Some cities of the closer to the Middle East.
Man, Meon's essence is really doing a number
Yes.
on you.
But yeah,
I thought essences would fade once they're damned, but
don't worry about it. But anyway, yeah, some routes close by the northeast. I set those up, excuse me. Trying to mute myself there, but it didn't work.
Bless you.
Yes, unfortunately, the sorceress dream messages can take a bit of a handle to get on how to work the program.
There's some trade routes underground. I can get those set up and talk to my representative by the north. But yeah, that's something.
Speaking of representation and business, this next question actually came into you live. Fools! Roxy, Queen of Fangs, demands tribute in the form of Jade! The one known as Aura owes the Queen of Fangs 5,000 talents for opening one of their wretched restaurants in the Thousand Fangs Total Control. Yup, bitch! That was read as written, with capitals and all.
Aura, your retort.
Did they try to double down?
Yes, there is a message of a double down sandwich attached to this. It appears to be on an altar in flames with an army of ape men all flipping it off.
Well,
how dare!
Wait a minute. Oh, the ape men. This is Roxy, the Queen of Fangs, one of the most infamous lunar warlords in all the world.
Oh, thank the Lord it wasn't that child that we murdered their shark.
Arguably the most famous sorcerer ever.
Do I know of them?
Yes, you probably should. You're a moonoid. You should know the other moons.
Did you just call me a moonoid?
I did, yes.
Wow.
I don't actually remember being there for that. For the opening of that one. That must have been one of the subsidiaries. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't know it didn't get it didn't get on-site approval. Would have liked to.
I don't know if you actually owe her money. She might just be trying to extort you. We'll get to it when it gets to it.
if any vandalism occurs, I've got some people there. I know that place is I know that place is a little bit dangerous, but I got some countermeasures set up. I managed to get some free agents set up there myself. Get some, I believe, a sword master of the East also was an interesting find. He wanted to get some work guarding something somewhere he didn't have to move.
Suppose you have to make rent some way or another.
Yeah, so I basically set him up there. Good guy.
I actually have never been to one of these restaurants. What is it like?
Well, it's nice. It's very cozy is what I like to call it. There's not too much space. Try to keep things a lot more homey feeling. Try to set up places where there's a lot of movement. Very, a lot of the cooking is inspired by cooking from my home, from home places that I went to. So a lot of spices, a lot of not necessarily grease. I try to keep things savory, but yeah, typically it's a lot of very untapped savory spice, working with very traditionalist cooking. So we've been trying to get a bit more some more new stuff too, because we like introducing little differences between the territories, because those people are obviously used to food that tastes different no matter where you go. So we try to account for that. You have something unique everywhere, and that ended up being part of the draw, in that you can go somewhere. You can go somewhere different and always get something new.
It does sound like a very promising hope for a restaurant chain. I hope you're able to get her money.
That's not going to happen.
Or get out of whatever she's trying to extort from you.
That's okay, Hank.
Next
Hank
on the question is... next on the field is a question from Mahasuchi, another famous lunar warlord. You seem to have a handle on this missive system. It's getting past all my wards that work for blocking Infallible Messenger. Do you have any ideas on how to... Do you have any ideas on how to stop Roxy from drunk calling me in the middle of the night?
Well, there's a few things you could do, but I don't think you want to do them.
I also can think of a few things, but they might land you at the worst in a mortal prison, or at best in a mortal prison, at worst.
Well, Mahasuchi's also another lunar warlord, and I've actually had a few souls pass by here who died in the midst of a war between the two of them.
You could just marry her.
I see.
I guess marriage is a good way to pass, I actually believe that... I believe a marriage back then was proposed, and that is how someone died via him beheading them on the spot.
Oh, good thing he doesn't know where I'm at.
That's one hell of an engagement.
No. He beheaded the person who proposed that they wed in order to resolve their feud.
Oh, I see. Perhaps to Semyozi that could be considered some type of engagement.
Yeah, well, they would be able to survive it, whereas people can't.
Indeed.
Well, there's that. That's the only
but
solution
as
I
to
can
answer
think
your
of besides
question,
trying to destroy her, but I mean, I don't think you could do that, because you're already in a war.
But to answer your question, Mahasuchi, I would say this. Well, let's see. Actually, yes. I would say, do you know any sort of either, I guess, meditations or any sort of techniques that sort of block your senses when you're trying to sleep, because if you don't, I would highly recommend trying to do something like that. In fact, I kind of wish I had something like that right now.
Well,
But I've heard such techniques do exist.
well, best of luck and I think he has this cabal of 3 sorcerer mothers or something that he has his poly thing going with. Hopefully they can get something set up.
That should be... I'm sure it will be quite easy to figure out a solution from there, then.
Next up is a question from outside of our usual network from some mortals. A northeastmost citizen is what they put their answer as.
Oh, get out. That is the answer.
My family's lived for decades at the edge of creation, and we've never given the fair folk an inch. But I confess, I'm at the end of my tether. How do I stop these goddamn rockshot tipping over my trash cans? I can't even kill them because my children think they're cute when they play dead and carry their babies on their backs. Must my backyard be at the mercy of their inchoate whimsy?
So what you're saying is that you don't like opossums.
They sound more like raccoons to me, to be honest.
Well, opossum.
That's the vibe I was sort of getting.
You do nothing.
Yes.
You feed them and you give them love. That is...
You will do neither
Yes,
such thing.
exactly.
That will
They
only
deserve to be
encourage
encouraged.
them.
They're very depressed creatures.
No, they should not. Then,
My understanding...
I'm going to I shall hold my tongue on the
My
comment I
understanding
was
is
just
that
about
fair
to
folk
make.
have this allergy to cold iron, so you're going to want to get some iron, perhaps from a trade network, and use that to repel them, either set up a fence of some kind or just fucking stab them.
Don't you dare.
You could also make a trap, sort of like a mini
They're
guillotine.
used for bears, I understand. A bear trap. But don't you need some kind of bait
Indeed.
for that?
Well, they seem to... These
No,
raccoons
the raccoons
seem
are
to be
fair
going
folk.
after,
They just act like...
the...
They
Oh!
just act like raccoons.
Oh, okay. They're actual fair
Yes,
folk. I
then-
thought we were
then in
talking
that
about the
case-
real raccoon here. Never mind then. They...
No. My own mistake as well on that part, but... I would say, well, see what the fair folk are doing exactly, see what their patterns are, see what they go for specifically when terrorizing your territory. And from there, I would set up the appropriate bait, whether that would be food, some sort of nourishment, or... I mean, hey, even...
Oh,
some
wait a
sort
minute,
of
they enclosed an
trinket
image of
some
what the fair
kind
folk are
to
doing,
lure
actually.
them in. I see. Well, quite interesting. I didn't know fair folk were capable of such trickery. In that case, well, have you ever... I would ask this to this northeasternmost person. Have you ever seen a circus before? And if not, well, then allow me to sort of enlighten you a little bit. So, with circuses, they usually have all sorts of acrobatics and performance people doing a variety of tricks and techniques to sort of catch the eye. And these fair folks, from what you've described and from what I am being shown here, well, there's an easy solution for that. You set up a dangerous obstacle course for them, to which they have no hope of actually succeeding. Will it take a bit of engineering, mayhaps? Yes, but that seems like the most A, entertaining solution for you, but also B, the most, the most efficient solution.
Yes, the Dread Sorcerer
well.
Rube Goldberg.
Oh no. I heard their machines are
Indeed.
terrible.
Quite. The next question... Oh, Aura, do you have any comment? They are busy convalescing right now. The poison must have gotten to them again.
The poison's been poisoned.
Yes. Next up question comes to us from Hundred-Headed Wolf Spider Obra Dia Harkonnen. A lunar exalt.
Goodness.
They don't say where.
What
What's
is
your
so-
dream bounty that'll be placed on your head?
As in the amount, I presume.
Amount, currency, barter system payment.
Okay, well, I can actually think of one myself. I would say if the gods collectively decided to put a bounty on my head, I would hope it would be for how many, let's see. I would hope that whoever would be the one that actually kills me, the gods, again, collectively, would grant that person 7 wishes. No, 13 wishes.
In a monkey's paw style fashion, I'm guessing.
No.
Hey.
No, they would have to be true to the wish.
My, you put a really large bounty on your head of literally 1,000 wishes.
Real wishes, too, not bullshit
again,
wishes.
the
Yes.
person...
It's impressive.
Yes, again, the person did say what our dream bounty would be. Well, if someone were to actually kill me, then I would hope that
So wait a
person
second.
gets exactly
so
that.
With those 7 wishes,
They
you can
deserve it
destroy
after
your
all.
Bounty. So hear me out here. There's a loophole to that.
Yes.
As always.
So if I were to kill you, then use the wish to bring you back exactly as you were, minus the bounty, I still have 6 more wishes, or 12 more wishes. And your...
No, the wishes is for the person
Indeed.
who killed Gavel as a reward for killing them.
Exactly, but if you wish Gavel back
Ye-
with those wishes...
Couldn't that technically void
Well,
the
I
agreement
still
then?
True,
Because
but
I'm
the
technically
bounty
not
was for your
dead
death,
anymore.
and you were dead.
Possibly, but I suppose that's up for the gods to sort out for themselves. Again, it would have to be collectively agreed upon, which, knowing those assholes, they're not going to collectively agree on shit. Lythander, what would be
My
your dream
dream
bounty
bounty?
then?
It would be no bounty. Fine, let me rephrase that.
Coward.
My dream bounty would be a single seed. That seed would grow Yggdrasil.
Isn't that only in those stories
I
from the
believe,
Wasted
yeah,
Tundra?
that's
I want the
big
tree
tree from the
that-
tundras.
I want the tree that holds the world as my bounty. For those who have killed me to have a new world thrust upon them.
This is why I'm building my world from the ground up, so they don't have to deal with any of the problems that come with inheriting a world out of nowhere.
I mean, they don't inherit the world out of nowhere. It is a brand new world.
It just sprouts from the old one, which I could go on and on about the seemingly similarities between both of your ideas of a new world, but I digress.
Aura, do you
We'll be
have a
here
dream
for hours.
bounty?
Well, what do you say when you say dream bounty? What do you mean exactly?
As in, if a bounty were to be put on your head, what would your dream bounty be?
Great question. Well, I guess something high, probably. Maybe for something seemingly inconsequential. I don't know. I just wish. I think if it were, I would probably want to get a bounty from one of the cities to the west. You know the ones? Get describe them for me. I forget how they look.
City archipelagos. There's a few free-floating cities on logs, is my understanding. Like massive floating
Yes,
cities.
they have a lot of the cool casinos there. Those places can get really glamorous from what they can accomplish. I'd like to get a cool.
I think Plentamon, the god of gambling ones, run out of there.
I'd want to get a bounty from there.
Alright, next up, let me just reopen my tablet again. Comes to us from... Scrolling to the answers. Yes. One of my colleagues. The Illimitable Magistrate of Tears. One of the other Abyssals. I believe they are from further east. I actually have 2 unrelated questions. First, who have you killed recently, and how confident are you that they deserved it?
Oh,
Second, how vulnerable are you to attack by immaterial spirits?
Oh, that is actually very funny, because the last person we killed... Wait, who was that? We can't actually remember them, because they're sidereal.
Meon.
Oh, yes.
I don't think their
Neon.
memory curse applies after you kill them. The dead can't be affected by that.
Yes.
Yes, so, that should
Thank
answer your
goodness,
question
but
of
no,
how
it was-
we are to mental
was-
attacks, you said?
But yes,
Yes.
so was Meon, and did they deserve it? Oh, yes. Yes, he deserved it.
They deserved it more than anyone.
But what was the second question?
How vulnerable are you to attacks by immaterial spirits?
Why don't you come out in here and find out?
Very, very not.
Immaterial spirits? I wouldn't say I'm quite vulnerable. Or, yes, I am not vulnerable to immaterial spirits, I would say.
Yes, you have the thing where you could punch spirits, I understand.
Yes, and can make them dead. Not just dead and then cycle back. No, permanent.
Feed them right down the oblivion toilet. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, I am very
Indeed.
glad we don't have any toiletry-related stories, as are too common on this program.
Thank goodness.
It could get tiring hearing about the pigsty coop and the shogun literally choking to death on feces over and over.
I don't blame you there.
Alright, if that's everything, let's move on to a question from Manemin Getro, a endings cast sidereal. What is the silliest, most menial, childish, or stupid thing you have summoned a demon, elemental, or ghost for?
Wait, what was the question again?
What's the dumbest thing or silliest thing you've ever summoned a demon or ghost for?
To get me a book.
A special book?
A book. Not even a special book, no. It was a history book on, it was about a history book of the Inland Sea. That was it.
Now, what kind of demon was it?
Was there... it was a small, almost insect-like demon. No larger than I would say, probably... Actually, you know those very small dogs that people carry
The
around
Chihuahua, I
sometimes?
think
It was
it's
about the
called.
size of that. A Chihuahua or a Shih Tzu, but yes.
And was the book bigger than it is? Did you force it to carry it to you?
Well, no, it was... what's it? Actually, the demon was about twice the size of the book, actually.
Did the demon give you shit or anything for just summoning it for something so simple?
It did originally, but turns out that even sometimes demons have some animalistic tendencies in the fact that they enjoy physical affection, such as scratches behind
Yeah,
the
I hear
ears.
that some demons just break down crying out of gratitude if you give them a hug. Malpheus does not
Yes,
treat them
so-
right.
No, they do not. But yes, so originally the demon did give me a bit of a hassle with that, but after a few scratches behind the ears, everything was done and done. Also, turns out the history of the Inland Sea is not as long as I originally thought.
As to be expected. It's a little hard to keep track of things when all the paper keeps getting wet.
Indeed.
Lythander, you're also a fellow necromancer. Have you any funny ghost summoning stories?
Not really.
Aura, I don't think you're a sorcerer over here on your end, but do you have any, perhaps, particularly interesting dealings with spirits?
Well, no, not really. I haven't really dealt with spirits in any way that I wouldn't call diplomatic or aggressive, but I've always had like an interpreter for the former, and the latter. Well, it doesn't take too long.
Well,
It happens.
there are stories that happened recently in my history with summoning ghosts for dates. unfortunately, my love life has not been doing very well as of past several moons, primarily because of the whole soul sale trafficking ring that someone was running. They were being less discerning with spirits that they put in, and now they're part of some Gundam.
Maybe you should stop.
Gundam?
But I was able to secure one eligible bachelor from further east. I don't think he had a particular name. He was in between them at the moment, but we had a nice time, and he was a bit flummoxed that I summoned him just for dinner and a show, but it went fairly well, and I'm not comfortable detailing what happened between this podcast, but it was quite interesting, and we had a good time.
Everyone needs some practice now and again, especially in the romantic fields.
Next question is from Lord Entropy.
What a name.
I'm not reading that out loud. Yep, he laced sorceress messages with that is causing my entire face to explode. That's quite painful. Excuse me a moment.
That's to be expected from a name like that. I wonder if they're an infernal cast as well.
It's a little hard to tell, but I'm not reading that question out loud. Ow. Anyways. I am... One moment. A question from C. Paleps, a solar. So, I'm a dynast who turned 18 without exalting. Everyone gave up on me being the son of a dragon. My dad doesn't even make me do drills anymore. Scrolling past just a little. Now there are a new solar on the Isles, and there's a wild hunt coming for them. They want advice on what to do with that, but they don't want to leave all their friends behind.
Are you? Is this person asking us what to do about this?
Well, they are the
solar,
new solar, and
or about an escape route.
Because the Immaculate Faith has the whole thing about solars being demons, and lunars too.
Right. I suppose I'm a bit confused on what the actual
I think they want an escape route, or advice on what to do, given not getting exposed and getting a wild hunt sent after them and trying to square the circle of having dragon-blooded friends.
I see. Well, that does make things quite tricky. Well, I would say this. You could probably go to the northeast, just like our previous question sender. Maybe go join them in the northeastern part of creation.
Yeah, that might work.
No wild hunt can be sent to you that far out. I mean, physically it could be sent out for you, but whether those idiots would try to actually go for you or not is the possibility.
We actually have a solar on us with the call right now. Aura, how did you survive early wild hunts or stuff when you first lit up? Still convalescing due to the poison. Lythander, do you have any wild hunt experience?
Not at all. I apologize.
That just means you were good at hiding and being subtle. Gavel, do you have any experience with priests?
Many. But are you talking about any sort of situation in particular?
Hunters, sent after you.
Yes, the demon hunters. They were an interesting bunch. See, the best thing about demon hunters sometimes is that although they know of a name to hunt for, not all of them know a face to go after. So when you have one of your own army participants pretend to be you for a little bit, covered in armor, and have a slightly similar voice, it's quite easy to trick demon hunters into gathering into one area for a surprise attack and slay them all in one fell swoop.
Did your impersonator get out okay?
Yes, they were untouched.
I guess you gave them the good armor then. That's I tried something similar once, but let's just say we're thankful they were already dead. It took them a whole year and a day to come back from all the stab wounds.
I see.
Anyways.
Oh, and also Also, it's good to have backup as well, just in case something terrible goes.
Or are you done
happens, I should say.
convalescing?
Yeah. I think we
Alright,
could wrap this up in about a minute.
Yeah, I just wanted one last answer from one solar to another. Trips about avoiding the wild hunt
Oh, well, yeah.
for this
Yeah,
last
Nue.
question.
Nue's is a bit better at answering questions about wild hunt and all that than I am personally. I've always been more of a people person. Typically, though, animals have a way of, getting into civilization more often than not. They come in all shapes and sizes, and it's hard to account for them all. Typically, if you build high, they'll probably have a harder time getting in. But at that point, you're trading one thing for another. It's important to know who you're worried about the most. I guess my best tip is to know what you're trying to avoid, and stick to a method. Don't try anything fancy. Just keep to the old reliable methods.
They're talking about dragon-blooded demon hunters, not the raccoons again.
Oh, okay. Keep a variety of weapon types in hand, because they have elemental resistances, and a lot of times you need to account for them all. So, personally, I employed some of these tactics back at the tournament. It was a very difficult opponent. They could resist my fire attacks, but I managed to get to employ some water elemental techniques borrowed in from somebody. But yeah, that's the best tip I can give you. It's just try to work around their resistances. Get a good variety of elemental attributes settled in. I think depending on what dragon there are, you want to vary up your approach depending on what they do. So for wind elementals, you want to get them close. For earth elementals, you want to stay far and pester them with environmental hazards. Fire, of course, you have to keep them away in general. Try to keep them down. Apply pressure. Yeah, it's all about knowing your enemy in a lot of those cases.
Speaking about questions, we actually have room for one last one, if everyone is alright with that.
Sure.
The sorcerer's connection.
Right.
I do, at least.
Unfortunately, we appear to be low on time. Fallen Star is calling me in for another martial arts lesson. Something about teaching me Aboukant Sepulture of Extinction. Right. That sounds like an interesting style. Anyways, this last question comes to us from Beneath. Wait, just Beneath. Beneath. The head of House Beneath on the Blessed Isle, the Empress's newest daughter.
Oh.
Recently, it seems as though civil unrest is brewing on the Isle and open warfare may break out. I am sending this question to you privately, and this is sorcery enchanted to keep you from passing the information on. Oh no, the slugs. Anyways.
We just got rid of those fucking slugs moments ago.
I was curious if you had any political opinions on the current information on the Blessed Isle, what with Pelex and Nellens being at each other's throats, as well as Menemen's house trying to hurt my own children, and arguments and fistfights starting in the Senate daily. If you had any political input on how to best keep everything from exploding on the center.
This is not a political podcast. That is all.
Yes, and I think we're going to end things off there then.
Yes, I will have to agree, as I do not care for mortal affairs. I only care about killing the gods.
Lythander, do you have any hot political takes?
There are so many people that need to die. That is my political take, I guess.
And we'll leave it off there. By the way, we're still not even for you breaking the soul oath.
Yes,
we'll
we
get
are.
back to there later. For now, I will release you from this podcast host
Fucking
duties.
shit.
We will see you next episode with another all abyssal episode, which I'm sure everyone will be very excited for. Nelkin Fool might actually show up this time.
Oh,
She still was supposed to show up for this episode, but she still never came onto the call.
I'm sure that will go swimmingly.
And we also have the PMOPM is what they have their abbreviation listed as. And one other Death Knight. Red Iron Rebuke will be coming to deliver a special Thorn-sponsored episode. They'll have to smuggle me in after I got banned, but hopefully we might be able to get it to work. We'll have another special spectacular from everyone in there.
Just make sure Mask of Winters
Hopefully he still doesn't find
notice
his
you.
cat by then. This is it for
Please.
another episode of RipShips. Hope you enjoyed, and see you next time. Oh, and something about more normal FateBreakers next week, whatever that means.
Wait. Oh, we aren't going to talk about our new project?
The what?
You know, the new project that's coming out soon.
That
Don't
sounds
worry.
quite
Don't
bizarre,
worry
but I'm
about
sure
that.
we'll get to that soon.
I don't know, there's something... I don't know. I have a giant expectation for this. Hopefully we don't just throw it in a tomb.
I'm sure there's many shoots and ladders to be had, but
See you
that
all
will
on
be
the
revealed
roundabout.
in due time.
Thank you for listening to FateBreakers. We here at the Action Economy crew are really excited to bring you our first big project, and you can also follow all of our socials for more of our content. Actual plays live and die by word of mouth, so if you enjoyed this episode, or know a friend or two who would be interested in this setting or the story we're telling, spreading the word is a great help to a brand new podcast. Me and the players have a lot of ideas and plot seeds for later, both in the far future and 2 weeks from now, the next episode of FateBreakers. Catch you then.